Hi everyone, I was looking over the discussion for last week where you all did your awesome word clouds. I really like the effort that you put into them, making sure that the graphic matched up with the content or the purpose. Um, it's interesting because some of you put things in topics I'm not even familiar with, but because of the word cloud, I was able to identify a word that was very prominent, and then I did a Google search myself to learn more about it. So that's one way that these things are really good because they show the emphasis there. But one thing I wanted to talk about here, and this was a good one, good data, NBA technology, player, it's huge, possession. One thing I want you to be aware of, just in the future for everybody, it could be this kind of work, or it could be where you're putting together a bar chart or column chart or a graph, any kind of a graph. You see all these small words here. Basically, they're not very frequent, but they're still in the document. What you should do when it comes to this, or maybe some variables in your model, and that you want to display graphically, like counts or things, just get rid of them. Get rid of them. Like remove a lot of these words from the study, or in the case of a variable, let's say you're doing, like a customer segment, and you have a column chart where you've got 6 different segments, but there's a real dog. In other words, there's a segment that has very little activity, but it's making your chart all wonky. And I'll show you what I mean here. So where I've got a chart like this, where pretty much everything is, right around 900 something. You can see some of the data over here, but there's a SOX over here that's really low. Well, that's good in one sense, but if I were to remove that, because the problem is I can't really see the intensity here because this chart has all of this excess here because it has to display this little piece here. So I don't really see a lot of the volatility here. Now you could argue there's not a lot, but sometimes it's good to see that volatility when compared to the peers of their segments. So what we'll do here is we'll get rid of that SOX and look at how this chart is better for it. Okay, so now we got rid of SOX, and now you can see that the chart doesn't have it in there. But one thing we could do is right click on this axis, format axes, and kind of start, we could start with 500. Before we couldn't do that because SOX was at 0. So now you can definitely see that glasses is a leader. But you could go even further to say, hey, what's my minimum number here? Well, my minimum number here is 899. So you want to be careful. You don't want to overdo this, but watch what happens when I put 899. Now you're really flatlined here into showing the dogs and the winners. It's just more exponential or articulated better. Now, I would say that's a weird way to put your axes. You want to put it in 5s or 0s. So maybe go to 800 and you bring it up a little bit, or even 850. Just as a way to show more magnitude versus the original way where we had 0 or close to 0 for the other category for SOX. So that's just an example that I like to bring back to this as well. By removing a lot of these ancillary ones, you might be able to get a better graphic and not have the audience waste time looking at these or being distracted by those as well. So just a couple perspectives there I thought I would share.